This is the Sales Babble Podcast, episode 328, The Do's and Don'ts of Social Media Marketing, an interview with Joe Sanders.
Welcome to Sales Babble, the podcast that shares selling secrets for non-sellers. And now your host, Pat Helmers.
Hello, Sales Babblers. This is Pat Helmers, and today we meet Joe Sanders from Relevant Elephant. In this interview, Joe shares common mistakes businesses make when attempting social media. Then he shares a 5-step strategy for promoting your brand and closing the prospects. Really great stuff, and dare I say, quite relevant. But before we get to the interview, I want to do a shout out to our sponsor, Sharetivity, who help salespeople increase prospect engagement by providing an easy and fast way of personalizing their outreach on LinkedIn. Later in the episode, we'll tell you how to get a free trial of Sharetivity. And so, with no further ado, let's get to it. Welcome, Joe. Are you ready to babble?
I am.
Joe, you're a marketing guy, right?
I am, yes.
And your marketing company has a goofy name.
It does. Relevant Elephant. That's the name of our company.
I like how it rhymes.
Thank you. You're going to ask me next why I call it this, right? That's what you're gonna ask me.
Yeah, right.
It's what everybody does. It's not that great of a story, actually. We first started this company about 5 years ago, and really we're just helping small to mid-sized businesses, and found out that the majority of them weren't relevant in their industry on social media, and nobody was paying attention to them. And so we're like, let's see, Relevant Elephant, be relevant, get noticed, be relevant in your industry and be that elephant in the room everybody's paying attention to. It sounds a lot better than Joe's marketing company as well. So
I like it.
Thank you.
And I think this is actually a relevant topic, pun intended, because a lot of salespeople are always struggling to get leads. It's probably the number one thing I'm asked about all the time. It's like, how can I get qualified leads? How can I bump into these people so I can, turn them into a sales call and who knows, maybe a client or customer. It's your expertise, right?
Yeah, it is. Getting lead generation via social media, digital marketing has become a huge part of the marketing experience on those channels, especially in the last couple of years. Lead generation has become a very big part of running successful digital marketing campaigns, definitely.
But when you and I were chatting earlier, you were saying that people are doing it wrong. What do you mean by that?
Overall, when we're prospecting, because, we're a small business too, so we're prospecting, looking for leads as well. What we find is when we look at digital marketing, primarily Facebook, Instagram, YouTube pages, LinkedIn, things like that, we see a lot of people that are using digital marketing in the wrong way. There's sort of this idea out there that, I've never been on LinkedIn before, or I've never been on Facebook before. So what I'm going to do is to start posting things on there. Oh, here's the thing that I want people to know about. Here's the thing I want to say. And then people find out that, well, I did that, and I did it a whole bunch of times, and I got really excited about it, but nothing happened. And they do it a little longer. They post some more stuff on Instagram, and they do all this stuff, and they read all these books, and they post all this stuff. And then, a couple of weeks later, a couple of months later, they stop and they go, well, that was a giant waste of my time. And I'm frustrated now because I thought everybody tells me that Facebook works really well, and LinkedIn works really well, Instagram works really well, and YouTube, but it didn't work well for me. So this must not work. The reason that happens a lot of times is because what people are engaging is posting content. They're not marketing content. There's a difference between posting things and marketing things. Marketing has been around for a long time, right? And marketing hasn't changed at all. The same process you use to market something on Facebook or YouTube right now is the same process you would use in the 50s if you're buying television commercials or buying billboards or whatever it is. It's the same process. It's a genuine marketing strategy. So regardless if you're looking for leads, if you're looking for branding, if you're looking for call to action, whatever you're looking for, you can, depending on what business you have, you can use digital marketing to get whatever it is you want people to do. So as long as you use a proper marketing strategy, and social media and digital marketing is no different.
A strategy.
A strategy.
But probably just not any strategy, the right strategy.
Yeah, I mean, the right strategy, coming from a classic marketing approach. You don't have to reinvent the wheel here. Marketing is, like I said, marketing's been around for a long time, and it's worked to grow businesses and organizations and nonprofits for decades. I mean, ever since marketing kind of began. So thinking that, because all these new flashy mediums are here, that somehow marketing has changed, it's not the case. So you can go back and find a lot of classic marketing approaches to things to solve marketing problems. That is to say that I believe businesses don't have social media or digital marketing problems. They have marketing problems and solving the marketing solution, marketing strategy. So what I've developed is a 5-step marketing strategy that's based in a classic marketing approach, and you can apply it easily to digital marketing. So essentially the first thing you do before you do anything is you define your audience. You figure out who your audience is. In some cases, you may have multiple audiences. There are ways to go into all the digital platforms and literally figure out who these people are, where they live, what they like, how many of them there are, and all these different things. You can't market anything until you know who you're marketing to. A lot of companies that work in the digital marketing world like to start with content. They go, oh, you have this great company. Let's create this content first. And I always think that's wrong. I think you need to define the audience. You may have multiple audiences, but you need to do that first. So the first thing is define the audience. The second thing to do is then to create content.
Okay, let me stop you there, number one.
Sure.
Yeah. So let's say I have a company that sells lots of stuff. There's lots of things. Mm-hmm. How do I deal with that? How do I know where to put my emphasis? And even if I factor the two out, there may not be commonality. That's a struggle many people face.
It can be, but the majority of companies that market anything anywhere are not doing so to everybody. They're not marketing to everybody. So if you're selling lots of different products, for example, let's say you're a brick and mortar store and you're selling, I don't know, you're a hardware store or something. Well, let's just take that for an example. If that was the case, you're not marketing to everybody because there's only a certain amount of distance people are going to drive to come to your store. And so figuring out what that distance is and what your competitive advantages are to replacement similar businesses than yours is really important. So you go on Google Maps, you go on Apple Maps, you map out, well, what do I sell compared to what everybody else sells? How far is somebody willing to drive to come to my business? And then based on that, you can figure out your geography. From there, you can figure out your demographics. What kind of people come into my store? What kind of things do they like? What are their behaviors? What are their tendencies? Social media marketing, especially, is following everybody around and checking on what everybody's doing, whether they're on the social media platform or not. So if you're an online retailer, it's even easier to do because you can find people that are, because if you're saying, well, I'm selling watches online, there are protocols in digital marketing that will tell you for people that are likely to purchase products online as opposed to people that aren't. Okay. Then based on the type of product you're selling, you break it down based on demographic. Now, you may not be able to break people's demographic information down as to how much money they make, but you could break it down as to what kind of jobs they have and what zip codes they live in. If you're selling luxury watches, you can make a distinction between different communities based on what their annual income is, right? And based on what their job titles are. So you can really get specific in this if you take the time to do it the right way.
I like the idea that you speak to the competitive advantage and using that to guide. I think that makes a ton of sense. So
it is. It's huge. And like, again, we're just spitballing this, but if you have a hardware store and let's say your hardware store has something that a lot of other hardware stores don't have, maybe you're, I don't know, propane for grills or tool rental. Okay. Well, now you know what your competitive advantage is over all the other places that you're trying to go, that you're marketing in the same for the geography, right? So now that you know what your competitive advantages are, you can expand your geography based on what it is that you offer. Because if you offer the same thing that everybody else offers and there's really no competitive advantage, then you're going to probably restrict the geography marketing range of your product because nobody's going to drive past 3 other similar stores that do the same thing that you do to get to yours, generally speaking, right? I mean, it's always the value of the product is always more important than what the product is itself. And I can't state that, overemphasize that. It's always the value of the product. So that's why my wife goes to a salon that's far away from here to get her hair done. Okay. She passes probably 10 salons on the way. Why'd she do that? Because the value she receives at the place she's going to has that added value for her and that particular product, that particular service, right? So it's always about the value. But when you're breaking down audiences and you're spending your hard-earned marketing dollars, you want to do your homework to understand what the competitive landscape is and where is the best place for you to start, as opposed to saying, well, I'm just going to market to everybody, because most likely that's not going to work well for you.
So what's step 2?
Step 2 is to create content. So the content creation, now that you know who the audience is, now you can create the content. This can be an overwhelming step because there are so many different ways to create content, right? I mean, you can make graphics, you can take pictures, you can make videos from your phone, you can hire a professional videographer to make videos for you. You can use text, you can make offers, you can run contests, you can do all these things. But they're not all going to resonate with the same audience. That's why you have to understand who your audience is. Let's say that you're selling prom dresses. Let's say you're a boutique. All right. Well, in that case, you may have 3 different audiences that you're marketing to. You may have the girls themselves who are 15 to 18 who are buying these dresses. You may be marketing to them on certain digital platforms such as TikTok or Snapchat or Instagram. Well, what about the moms of these girls who are actually paying for the dresses? Well, they're not on those programs, but they're still going to want to respond to your advertising. But it's going to be a completely different message. It's going to be completely different kinds of content, and it's probably going to be on different platforms. You could also market to the dads of these girls who are also paying for this. And that would be a completely different message too. You wouldn't show the same content that you'd show to a teenage girl that you would show to like a 40 or 50-year-old guy, right? And then you could also even market to girls that are 13 to 14 to 15 years old who are not going to prom yet, but they will be in a couple of years. Completely different content, right? Completely different content and all different audiences, all within the same campaign. They could all be leading to the same website or the same store, but they would be all completely different content, taking into consideration who exactly you're marketing to.
Got it.
Yeah.
What's step 3?
Step 3 is really important. It's promoting your business as a brand, because social media and digital marketing is all about branding. All right. It really is. There's a rule that we call the 80-20 rule that says only 20% of the people that go to your social media pages are going to read one word on your page. Most people are going to check you out. Odds are more people are going to go to your Facebook, Instagram, YouTube page than are going to go to your website. So a lot of companies, what they do is they spend all this time and money on their website, and you need a website. And if you're an e-commerce business, of course, you're going to spend a lot of resources there. But then a lot of times they take a back seat to what is happening on their social media pages. They use way less resources. And that's not the case. That shouldn't be the case, because branding is so important. It's the biggest thing you can do. It's comparing it to like driving on the highway and looking at a billboard. All right, you might see a billboard for a pizza. You're not going to stop in the middle of the highway to get that pizza, but it's going to make an impression on you.
So what's your definition of brand?
Yeah, it's real easy. I mean, you can spend weekend seminars and read a lot of books on branding. And in some cases you need to, if you're a big company and it's very complicated. But for your typical small to mid-sized business or your independent professional, here's what you do. Think of 3 things that you want people to think about when they think about your business. Just think of 3 things that you want people to think about when they think about your business, and then market those. You can do this exercise. It's really, really good to do. Figure that out. Sometimes you have to ask some people or whatever you have to do to figure out what these three things are. Then go and look at your digital marketing footprint, your digital footprint, as we say, your website, your Facebook page, your Instagram page, your YouTube page, whatever it is, and see if you get that without reading any of the words. Are you scrolling through it? Are you getting those 3 branding elements? If you're not, then your idea of what your branding is and what's actually happening are in a disconnect, and you need to go fix that. But it's really all about branding is about perception, and so we always think if you can break it down to those 3 elements, it'll give you a good start in getting to the right place.
So what's step 4?
Step 4 is use ample resources, and resources. I always say that business owners, a lot of times want to spend the least amount of time, money, and resources on marketing, but it's the thing that they think about the most. So what we always say is like, if you're going to do a successful marketing campaign, you're going to need to use resources. You may have to use advertising dollars. That's the big one. How much do I have to spend in this campaign to reach the audience that I want to reach? There's a metric called a CPM, and some of you may be familiar with this. CPM is cost per 1,000 impressions. It's the way that marketing is measured when it's purchased, okay? Whether you buy radio commercials or TV commercials or Facebook ads, it's all measured in a CPM. So you can actually run some math problems when you're defining your audience in that audience definition stage. If you pull out the right numbers, you can actually run some math problems and figure out exactly what amount of money you should be spending, okay, in order to reach that audience the right way or in an ample way. So it's you can, because of a lot of metrics and things that we have, you can really take a lot of the guesswork out of this. But without a budget, it's really hard to market things. If you don't have an advertising budget, most of the time you're going to be posting to the wind and people are not going to be paying attention. It's only after building up your audience on whatever platform you're working on that you can start to get some real good organic reach and growth and engagement. But you'll still have to invest the time and energy to grow the page to get to the point where it becomes an organic source for you. Of course, resources are also come into play when it comes about creating content, right? How much money do you have? Can you hire a professional videographer? Do you need to hire a graphic designer, or can you do it yourself? So resources are really important to understand what you need to do in order to penetrate that audience the right way and with the right content, or your scope of your project could get out of whack without that.
How about starting a podcast?
Starting a podcast, I don't know. What does that cost? I mean, I really don't know, Patrick. What does it cost to start? I mean, I don't know. That's not my area of expertise, but it sounds like a really good idea.
Doesn't it sound like a good idea?
It sounds like I'm having a wonderful time. This sounds like a great idea. But you tell me, what does that cost?
Well, we'll get to that in a little bit. I want to get on step 5.
Step 5, right. So step 5 is analyze the results. It's really important, right? This is where you're going to go from, well, I did all this work and I posted all this stuff and it didn't work, to, well, I did all this stuff, I posted all this stuff, now I know why it didn't work, okay? When you don't have a strategy, you have nothing to analyze. You could just be throwing things up against the wall and saying it doesn't work. The beauty of marketing is that when it doesn't work, you still win because you figure out why it didn't work, right? So if I have an advertising campaign that's going and I'm using this process and it's not working the way that I want it to, I can go back and say, well, is my audience right? Step 1. Do I have the right audience? Yeah, I feel I really do. Step 2, is my content right? Yeah, you know what? I think the audience, I threw this by a couple people. I think the content is right. 3, is my branding on element? Yeah, the branding seems really good. And 4, ample resources. You know what? I'm not penetrating my audience enough. That's why my campaign's not working. It could be any of those things. But if you're not analyzing things and looking at it, you're going to have a really hard time figuring out why something doesn't work. We put this into 3 big buckets. We reach, engagement, and growth. Reach meaning how many people did I reach? That's the idea of that CPM I was talking about. You can pay to reach people on social media. You can't pay to them to engage with your content. So if you know how many people you're reaching and you can analyze what the engagement is, then you have a pretty good idea of whether your stuff is working. And then the growth is are new people following my page? And if your reach, engagement, and growth are all in sync, you may not be moving the ball every day or every week or every month with your business, but if you're penetrating, if those categories are working well for you, you're getting good reach, you're getting good engagement on your reach, you're getting good new followers. If you do that consistently over time, you really have something special. But if you don't analyze your campaigns and just decide for some anecdotal reason that it doesn't work without knowing why it doesn't work, it's a recipe for failure typically.
So I want to wrap this up with this question. So let's say I've done all these 5 steps.
Yeah.
How do I convert those followers, contacts, depending on what social media you're in? How do I convert those into sales?
Yeah. Well, there's 2 major buckets of marketing. There's branding and there's call to action. Okay. So if I'm penetrating people with my branding message of this is what I'm about, this is what my logos looks like, these are the people that work at my company, this is what I want you to think about. That's great. But the call to action can be whatever it is you want it to be. If your call to action is fill out a lead form, well, great. then you can analyze the results of your campaign based on having somebody click on a lead form and fill that out. And we talked about that earlier. Go to my website, call me, email me, subscribe to my newsletter, sign up for my email list. Those are all different call to actions. It all depends on what it is. So you have to figure out when you're marketing this, the strategy doesn't change, but when you're hitting the right people, right, with the right content, and you have the right branding elements and you have enough resources by which to do so, you can pretty much ask people to do whatever it is you want them to do. And if you've got all of those things in line, you can pretty much ask them to do whatever it is that you want, obviously within reason. And lead forms being a really important one, especially on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn. It's a pretty powerful place to be. But your call to action is what you want it to be. And that's how you convert. But the marketing strategy doesn't change. It stays the same.
Excellent. Joe, if people wanted to find you online, where would they go?
So we're at relevantelephant.net. That's our website. We are all over the social media world. I'm on LinkedIn and Joseph Sanders. And I'm at Joe at relevantelephant.net.
Is there anything you want to give away?
Besides all this great advice?
Well, do you have a lead magnet that you'd like to share with the audience?
I would just say this, that, our company is built to service, the large and the small. So we have a lot of companies that we handle their day-to-day digital marketing for them. And we do their video production, and we do their posts, and we do their websites, and we do their Instagram and YouTube, and we do everything. But we also have a service that we do consulting for more professional services or people that don't want to get locked into like a long-term deal or get married to a marketing company. If somebody came and spent anywhere from 3 to 4, maybe up to 5 to 6 hours with us, we can go through what's for their specific business, customize a digital strategy for them, provide that to them, and then let them execute it themselves. But again, it's providing them with the strategy that they need to be successful.
Awesome. Joe, thanks for visiting us at Sales Babble. Thanks for babbling here. This has been great. Thank you. I appreciate it. It's been great to be here. I told you this is my first podcast, and hopefully it's not the last, but this is great. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Sales starts with getting your prospect's attention. Given all the noise, you have to be different. You have to personalize your outreach. Unfortunately, it's time-consuming to go to Google, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube to find an icebreaker. It's a conundrum because personalized outreach converts significantly higher than canned emails. Picture the possibility that with one click, you could get a social footprint of your prospect, which would make personalized outreach faster. With Sharetivity, you instantly discover personal information regarding your interests, college, and social media posts on LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. With Sharetivity, you can make each outreach personalized, yet fully automated to fill your pipeline. Sharetivity is a Chrome extension. Search for it in the Chrome Web Store. It only takes 2 minutes to download, and soon you'll be skyrocketing your prospecting productivity today. Sharetivity. One-click personalization. I could really identify with Joe Sanders' advice and his strategy. First, to define your audience. Second, to create content. Number 3, to promote the business as a brand, not just random posts. Number 4, use ample resources. Number 5, analyze and evaluate your post campaigns to see how good a job you're doing reaching your prospective clients. And then once you do all this, here's a bonus step. Use a call to action and convert those prospects into customers. To find links to Relevant Elephant and to Joe Sanders, you can find him in the show notes at www.salesbabble.com/328. And if you do go to those show notes, you can also find links to Sharetivity and how you too can get a free trial of the Sharetivity tool. Great stuff. Don't forget, Thursday, there's going to be a conference call with Sales Babble listeners. That will be at 4 o'clock Central, 5 o'clock Eastern, and 2 o'clock Pacific time. Love to see you there.
Again, the phone number and how to log in and all that kind of stuff you can find in the show notes. If you got a question or a comment, don't hesitate to reach out. Click the Babble Me button. I'd be more than happy to answer any and all questions you might have. So with that said, thanks again for setting aside a bit of today and listening to Sales Babble. I know you could pick a number of other podcasts to listen to, so I really appreciate it. That's all I've got for today, so until next week, take care and have a highly successful and a profitable selling day.
Thank you for listening to the Sales Babble podcast. Find us at www.salesbabble.com.
This is a production of Habanero Media.